Welcome to our deep dive into the fall of the Ottoman Empire. Today we'll explore the key reasons behind the collapse of one of history's most enduring empires. At their zenith, they controlled trade routes linking 3 continents, their shadow stretching from the gates of Vienna to the sands of Arabia. So how then to explain this colossus brought low? What forces conspired to topple this once mighty power? That's what we're going to uncover. This isn't just history, folks, it's a detective story, a geopolitical thriller centuries in the making. Imagine ruling over a domain so vast, so diverse, it makes modern-day Europe look like a peaceful suburb. That was the Ottoman reality. Within its borders lived a kaleidoscope of peoples: Greeks, Serbs, Arabs, Armenians, each with their own cultures, languages, and yes, ambitions. The 19th century was a time of burgeoning national identities across Europe. This wave of nationalism didn't stop at the Ottoman borders, it washed over them. Greeks dreaming of a return to their classical past. Serbs yearning for an independent kingdom. These weren't just abstract desires. They were potent forces, fueled by years of growing resentment towards Ottoman rule. Uprisings, revolts, wars of independence. The empire found itself increasingly on the defensive, struggling to maintain its grip on its increasingly restless subjects. Empires throughout history have grappled with the centrifugal forces of nationalism. But for the Ottomans, already grappling with other challenges, this internal pressure would prove increasingly difficult to contain. As provinces broke away, so too did their economic contributions. And believe me, those predators were watching, eager to capitalize on the Ottomans' weakening grip. The 19th century wasn't just about shifting borders and national awakenings. It was an age of unprecedented technological advancement. The Industrial Revolution, with its factories and railroads, was transforming the world. Europe was at the forefront of this revolution, and the consequences for the Ottomans were about to become painfully clear. Ottoman artisans, once renowned for their craftsmanship, suddenly found themselves competing with mass-produced goods flooding in from the West. It was a losing battle. The empire, slow to modernize, found itself increasingly economically dependent on European powers. Debt mounted, foreign influence grew, and the once mighty Ottoman economy began to resemble a patient on life support. A nation deeply in debt is a nation vulnerable to outside pressure. The Ottomans, once calling the shots, increasingly found themselves at the mercy of European creditors, forced to grant concessions to cede control of their own destiny. This economic turmoil fueled resentment, it eroded faith in the Ottoman state, and it created fertile ground for radical ideas to take root. The empire was losing not just its economic might, but the loyalty of its own people, and as we'll see, that's a dangerous combination for any empire, no matter how grand its past. An empire, my friends, is only as strong as its ability to defend its borders, to enforce its will. And on the battlefield, the 19th and early 20th centuries were not kind to the Ottomans. The Greeks, the Serbs, the Bulgarians, they all rose up. And while the Ottomans were able to quell some rebellions, each conflict chipped away at their military strength, drained their resources, and further tarnished their image as an indomitable power. Then came the Balkan Wars, a 1-2 punch that exposed the empire's military weaknesses for all to see. Outmaneuvered, outgunned, outfought, the Ottomans suffered a humiliating defeat driven from nearly all their European territories. Imagine the psychological blow, the sense of invincibility shattered. World War I, the great cataclysm of the 20th century, would prove to be the death knell of the Ottoman Empire. Each defeat further demoralized the Ottoman army, eroded morale at home, and hastened the empire's descent into chaos. Imagine, if you will, trying to govern a vast empire, a patchwork of cultures and languages, with a bureaucracy riddled with corruption and inefficiency. That was the challenge facing the Ottoman rulers in the 19th century. The once vaunted Ottoman bureaucracy, the backbone of the empire, was crumbling from within. Corruption was rampant, bribery commonplace, tax revenues, the lifeblood of any state, were siphoned off by corrupt officials. Essential services from road maintenance to public works were neglected. The people, burdened by taxes and neglected by their government, grew increasingly disillusioned. Faced with external threats and internal unrest, the Ottoman government seemed paralyzed, unable to implement reforms to adapt to the changing times. The Ottomans, once masters of their domain, found themselves prisoners of their own history, unable to break free from the shackles of the past. The 19th century wasn't just a time of internal turmoil for the Ottoman Empire. It was also a period of intense competition between the great powers of Europe. As the Ottoman Empire weakened, it became a pawn in this high-stakes game of geopolitical chess. Britain, France, Russia, they all saw opportunity in the Ottoman decline. They coveted the empire's strategically vital territories and key trade routes. The Russians supported nationalist movements in the Balkans. The British sought to maintain the Ottoman Empire as a bulwark against their rivals. This created a tangled web of alliances and rivalries. Ottoman rulers were caught in this web of intrigue. Imagine a dying empire, its people desperate for change. That was the Ottoman Empire in the early 20th century. Out of this arose the Young Turks, promising new life. Idealistic reformers, many military officers, sought radical change. In 1908, they staged a bloodless coup, forcing a constitution. But their revolution was too little, too late. The empire's problems were too deeply entrenched. Their dream was consumed by war and revolution. The year is 1914. Europe is a powder keg, and the Ottoman Empire, already teetering on the brink, is about to be dragged into the abyss. Joining the war on the side of Germany and Austria-Hungary, the Ottomans hoped to regain some of their lost territories, to restore their faded glory, but they had miscalculated, fatally. The war, far from revitalizing the empire, proved to be its death knell. The Ottoman army, poorly equipped and led, was no match for the combined might of the Allied powers. Defeats mounted, casualties soared, and the empire's already fragile economy collapsed under the strain of total war. Imagine the despair, the sense of hopelessness, as news of defeat after defeat filtered back to the home front. The Ottoman people, already suffering from shortages of food and basic necessities, were now being asked to sacrifice even more for a war they were losing. The Ottoman government, under the increasingly nationalist Young Turks, embarked on a campaign of persecution against the empire's Armenian minority, accusing them of siding with the enemy. The result was one of the darkest chapters in human history, the Armenian genocide. World War I, a global catastrophe, had exacerbated all of the Ottoman Empire's existing problems, pushing it past the point of no return. Imagine a once mighty empire reduced to ashes, its territories carved up by the victors. That was the fate of the Ottoman Empire in the aftermath of World War I. The Treaty of Sèvres, signed in 1920, was a Carthaginian peace, a brutal humiliation that formally dismembered the Ottoman state. Under the terms of the treaty, the Ottomans lost nearly all their remaining territories. Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, Mesopotamia, all were placed under European control. The Ottoman Empire, once stretching across 3 continents, was reduced to a rump state in Anatolia, its once proud capital occupied by Allied forces. The Treaty of Sèvres was a death sentence, a formal acknowledgement of what had already transpired, but it also planted the seeds of future conflict. As the Ottoman Empire lay in ruins, a new figure emerged on the stage of history, a man who would embody both the hopes and the fury of a nation reborn, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. A decorated war hero, Atatürk refused to accept the Treaty of Sèvres, the dismemberment of his homeland. He rallied his countrymen, igniting a nationalist firestorm that swept across Anatolia. The Turkish War of Independence, a desperate struggle against both foreign powers and internal enemies, was a testament to Atatürk's leadership and the resilience of the Turkish people. Against all odds, they triumphed, driving the Greeks from Smyrna, forcing the Allies to return to the negotiating table. The Treaty of Lausanne, signed in 1923, recognized the new Republic of Turkey with Atatürk as its president. The Ottoman Empire was no more, but from its ashes had arisen a new nation, determined to chart its own course. Atatürk, a visionary leader, embarked on an ambitious program of modernization, transforming Turkey into a secular, Western-oriented state. His reforms, while controversial, laid the foundation for modern Turkey. The fall of the Ottoman Empire was a cataclysmic event, but it also gave birth to something new, a Turkish nation-state determined to reclaim its place in the world. Thanks for joining us on this journey through history. We've explored the complex tapestry of factors, the internal struggles, the external pressures that ultimately led to the fall of the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire's impact on art, architecture, law and culture continues to resonate throughout the regions it once ruled. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more insightful content.